Recording in progress. All right.
It's
Well,
also fun for me because I haven't used Zoom in a while. I often use Google Meet these days. So uh,
yeah, Google Meets is popping too. I figured I figured
Zoom
it
for
was,
me is very much my like COVID era, but now it's
yeah,
behind me. So I've moved on to Google Meet. Yeah, yeah.
Google Meets. Yeah, for work I do Google Meets. I don't know why I did Zoom. Zoom is cool. I don't know.
No, it's
Yeah.
all good. Doesn't matter. They all work
Um,
great. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Anyways, yeah, just really quick to give you a quick overview. I'm graduating this May, in finance and have an interest in fintech. I love like talking to people and building relationships and doing like business development stuff. And so that's a couple of my interests. Brittany, like you can introduce yourself.
Yeah. So my name's Brittany. I'm also graduating this May. And then I'm also a finance student in the FinTech and the Innovation Network. And then I'm really interested to hear a little more about your story and everything.
Mhm. Oh, great. Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, Justin, this is the second time I'm meeting you, so that's good to
Yeah.
see you again. Brittany, that's great to hear. Yeah, I mean, my name is Daniel. I've been in San Francisco here for about 8 or 9 years. Um, and I originally moved to San Francisco, um, yeah, for a job at a fintech startup um, named Plaid. Um, and I would say that I guess back then fintech I guess felt very still quite nascent, but I didn't really know it. I think um, I would almost say I didn't even really truly know the word fintech or the portmanteau fintech until I'd um, moved here and started working in the space. Just because I studied computer science and I had graduated back in Canada. And when I was looking for work, I was looking for any kind of work really across anywhere in software. There was a small chance I could have gone and followed being like an IT administrator or like a network administrator. That sort of thing was interesting, or becoming a web developer. But I'd had a background in support engineering, so I'd sort of interned at a Canadian-based company, like a password management company, doing a lot of customer facing support. So very like technical. You would sell a product that has a lot of like complex ways in which it's configured or used, whether that's like how to interpret the docs, how to troubleshoot bugs, reading logs. And so that gave me enough experience after I'd graduated to, yeah, land that job at Plaid as a support engineer, which effectively meant that Plaid was selling an API that was, yeah, primarily for accessing financial data. And my job was to make sure that if customers were integrating with the API, that any issues they ran into, our team would help assess. So, at Plaid, that was anything like maybe transactions were missing when some transactions that happened over the past few days, and someone goes and makes a transactions API request. If those are missing, what's wrong? Is that something that maybe is an issue caused by Plaid, or is it an issue maybe caused by the bank, or is it an issue caused by the application themselves? There's, I guess, a few um, intermediaries or like stakeholders in that sort of triangle. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I learned a lot about the fintech ecosystem. What are the types of problems that people face? What do everyday users, and by people I mean like everyday users, to budget for anything from like budgeting to maybe getting a mortgage or getting access to a loan.
Mhm.
Um, uh, I didn't deal with this much myself either, but I'd learned a lot about like the fraudulent side of things. I'd
Mm.
never myself been personally subject to fraud or anything, but as a new graduate, it was all very enlightening to learn about that. That's a whole other side to the fintech pie that's very complex and hard to build tools and systems for and prevent and everything. So yeah, it was a lot of exposure into just how the financial system worked, and especially coming from Canada too, it was quite different. Learning sort of the differences between how an American financial system compares to the Canadian one, and there is a lot of overlap, but Um, for lack of a better word, just America's a lot larger and it's huge and gigantic, and Canada's, basically smaller population than all of California. So, yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
differences in scale and problems there. So, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is there something you did notice that was completely different from like how the US does their banking versus Canada?
Um, that's a good question. I mean, yeah, it was. I mean, especially with regards to fintech in 2017, like the way I sent money to my friends was there was a system, or I think there is still a system called Interac. Um, I think they would just call it an Interac e-transfer, and it's essentially the same as Zelle, where the banks you would log into your bank, and then I think you would give your friend their email, or they would give you your email, um, and then I think if you entered it, it would maybe send someone a code that you would come back and verify with, or maybe it was micro deposits. Maybe they sent micro deposits for like wire transfers. I can't remember or not wire transfers, but for like sending money to a friend, using Interac e-transfer was like this, it was like basically all I knew. And then when I came here, literally the first night when I moved to San Francisco and I dropped my bags off into my room, there was a roommate of mine who was like, "Hey, let's go out and grab a drink and like welcome me to the city and everything." And we went to a bar, and like I just remember after he'd paid, or I don't know, like I wanted to pay, but he said he would. I still didn't have like, I mean, for one, I didn't have much money. I was a new graduate, but I didn't have like my American bank account set up yet or anything like that. And I didn't want to pay with my Canadian card. And he was like, "You can just Venmo me." And I was like, "What the heck is that? Like, what is that?" And I mean, in 2017, Venmo at that point probably was like, yeah, very established. People definitely knew what it was. But for a Canadian, it was still this like totally foreign concept to me. And, he opens up his phone and he shows me the app and he's like, yeah, I can just like send money to other people. Um, and I just remember being so struck by how easy that was because, yeah, the Interact system in Canada was just it's a lot clunkier. And, as far as like UI, UX goes, it's just for many people, it's a little bit slow or antiquated or whatever. Um, and so, yeah, I felt that was like that was like the first, like literally fresh off the airplane, the first like shock to my system was like, oh, this is sort of what fintech is. And after a couple more weeks at Plaid, then learned and realized that a lot of Plaid's success was because of Venmo being an early customer of Plaid's. So if you wanted to connect your bank account to Venmo to pay people instead of paying them via credit card and paying the credit card fees, you could just use Plaid. And so that became very clear to me. I was like, oh, this is
Yeah.
where I work, and this is what the space that I'm in. Because yeah, it was also new. It was also new.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that like the US kind of is on Venmo, and then last year I visited Brazil and they're using this thing called Pix, and
Mhm.
everyone's just using that now to pay
Mhm.
for items or send money to each other. Have you heard of Pix before?
No, and yeah, I haven't. And like, I know Plaid, I mean, I won't speak for them now because I don't work there anymore, but like, I know there was always like, when do we expand to South America,
Yeah.
that sort of thing? Because I'm sure there will be some equivalent Venmo that needs to be built or is built or whatever. Yeah, I'm quite curious. I'm sure Pix has its own Plaid equivalent in South America that helps, build bank relationships that those fintech apps can have access to data so that people can move money easily and that sort of thing. Um, yeah, yeah. So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I haven't heard of it, but yeah, it's the sort of pattern I'm sure can arise in many other places, even though I know
Yeah.
very little about other markets and
Yeah.
countries and that sort of thing. So yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool because like I didn't see a single real out there when we did travel out there. So
Mm,
honestly, that's when I kind of learned about fintech a little bit more. I just was like, wait, is Brazil ahead of the US? Like, what's happening here?
mhm.
But yeah, they're really focused on that. I think just because like their whole like banking ecosystem is weird, super. It just like goes up and down. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah, I was kind of reading and seeing how you were there before. Plaid blew up, and at some point it looked like Visa wanted to buy you guys out for like
Mhm.
5.3 billion dollars, and then the DOJ was like, nah.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
Uh, so what was that like being there before everything like blew up, and then you also co-founded the technical developer support
Yeah, the
where
developers.
you yeah
Yeah,
where
yeah.
you like it sounds like or it seems like you like trained people and kind of set the standard for how the
Mhm.
job should get done. I thought that was really cool. um
Thanks. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I mean, on the first bit of uh on the like being there before it was known. I mean, yeah, it's so weird. I mean, it's so weird with hindsight or with like maturity, knowing that like, yeah, where I was gonna become uh some place that became like a household name in a way, or like people knew what it was. Because yeah, for the first yeah, those first 3 years for me, from 2017, like late 2017 to early 2020, I would say where I worked and like no one knew, you know, even
hmm
in like only in San Francisco would people know, and like those people were like between the age of 20 and 30, and they were online and they were working in startups or whatever. Um, I have a fond memory of another roommate that I'd had for a short time. Like he moved into my house and or like he'd moved into our place and he was like, "Oh yeah, I work at Coinbase," and I think his friends were there too. Um, and they asked me where I worked, and I was like, I work at Plaid," and they all were like, "Whoa!" They were like all so excited.
yeah.
They were like, "Oh my god, you work at Plaid! Wow, that's so cool!" And that was, I mean, that was still like 20, maybe 18 or 2019 or something like that. And that was probably the first time that I was like, "Oh, cool! Some people know the name and know the technology." But that was like basically, really the only time that that sort of thing would happen. And then it wasn't really until the Visa tried to acquire Plaid that, yeah, then friends back home in Canada started seeing what Plaid was because there was a few Plaid powered apps up in Canada. So it started to become a little more, the traction there started to occur a little bit more, which was cool. I think coming from Canada was especially interesting, just seeing after they had released in Canada, how the adoption sort of grew, and it was no longer just like I had to explain to people what it was every time. And I mean, I don't get me wrong, I loved explaining it because it was fun, kind of like showing people this new technology, but also it
I think
was
everybody
yeah, it
eventually
was kind of it was it was so funny because you're working at this place and people just don't know, and once you get that validation, that social validation, it's like, oh, it feels cool. So yeah,
yeah.
I never would have expected that, which was funny. So but yeah, so then the Visa acquisition falls through or whatever, and that was totally fine. Like I think that was I mean, at that time it was very much COVID, so we were all kind of just heads down, and I'd say that for a lot of people there, it was very much just business as usual, throughout much of it. And then when they decided to mutually part ways with the deal, uh, I think that actually was very just like freeing in a lot of ways, just because people could then get back to focusing on like the main mission of the company and really getting back into like the product and trying to make a good product that people want to use.
hmm
Um, so when it came to developer support, for my team, that was very much facing with the customers that had to integrate on the API side and the customers that had to integrate with our SDK. And so, there were a few other support teams that helped with other like mechanical parts of the product, but ours was very much, yeah, focused on that API side. Like, if the API goes down, who helps communicate that there's an issue? If there's a specific bug or maybe a new product or endpoint is released in the API, how do you help customers like understand how it works? And so a lot of our job was writing documentation. It was maybe even like educating other people at the company, whether it's like maybe we work closely with account directors, or maybe we work closely with like maybe a solutions engineering team that has to go and do like on-site work with customers. or like very hands-on work. Like we support kind of already always knew what like the shape of those issues were, so we were kind of the the folks to go to when stuff broke or wasn't working as expected. We kind of had to be the ones to be ready to either like help explain or help troubleshoot. And if we found that there was some legitimate issue, then that's when we would package it up and make clear what the issue was so that we could take it to an engineering team for it to be prioritized and fixed. And that basically that still applies for much of the support engineering experience, and that's kind of how I still do things today at OpenAI. It's very much akin to that. So yeah, the developer support can take many forms, but at the end of the day, it is just helping other technical folks, try to accomplish a task with a product.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that basically means that you yourself have to be pretty familiar with what the product does and how it can break and etc. So yeah.
Cool.
Uh,
So,
a couple minutes. Yeah. Sorry, some folks are grabbing dinner, but I'll go find them later. Go
oh,
ahead.
so I hope that's okay.
Oh yeah,
Sorry.
no, I'm not in a rush. I'm not in a rush. They're just waving at me. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So, kind of now that you're on that topic, it sounds like you were able to like really translate those skills to what you're doing now, like user operations, right? Because that's essentially it sounds like that's what you're doing. Like you're
Yeah.
helping determine and see what the problem is and explain it, and then you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, user operations is kind of a funny name, at least in as far as industry goes, just because I think it was maybe I don't know who it was that like coined the name here at OpenAI. They came in long before I joined, or whenever that decision was made. It is just like a long way of saying support, like technical support. Um, and so much of how our team operates today is, we have like a process for there are customers that are paying to use our product, whether it's ChatGPT or the API. And when they have issues, they'll contact support, and we are responsible for troubleshooting those issues, validating, is that an issue that's caused by us? Is there maybe some intermediary out there in the world that's somewhere over the wire, over the internet, that's maybe responsible for the issue? That can sometimes happen. And if it is in fact us, then like, can we on the support team identify like what is the scope of the issue? Does it affect a lot of people? Does it affect one person?
Hmm.
Does it is it urgent? Is it really sensitive? Does this affect like is someone's product experience like really degraded or having a poor experience because of this issue? Can we like clearly articulate what that is and send it out to the responsible team that can help get it fixed? And these days, it's my job has kind of changed, or like the role has kind of changed in that with things like Codex and the API and ChatGPT, we can contribute a lot to helping fix those issues too. So there's a little bit more like that we can do to get involved and like help write code. Because yeah, support folks are generally quite technical. I mean, there is varying degrees of it, but for those that want to get their hands dirty and roll up their sleeves, yeah, they can certainly do so more now than they used to, which is cool. But then there is like the operations side of user operations, which is just like, because OpenAI is such a big company, we have to have a global team, and so what does that mean for emergencies? We call them incidents. Like if chat goes down at 2 a.m. on a Saturday, like who's going to get woken up? Is it someone in Japan? This sort of thing.
Hmm.
Um, and then there are things like project planning, just around how do we as a support team, innovate ourselves so that we are keeping up with the times and we're using all the new tools available to us to make our jobs easier, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Also, a question I had was, how is OpenAI like getting connected with financial institutes and stuff like
Hmm.
that? Because I know a lot of them are now integrating it because it's a lot quicker to find answers and everything through AI rather than using their own sites and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you guys might know more about than I do. I mean, I've been, I mean, I guess like a lot of the customers I've been helping span the whole gamut, but for the few that are in fintech, um, I guess out of out of security reasons, I guess I can't name anyone in
Yeah.
particular, but many customers would have like integrated with our API in a way that would, yeah, make it easier for folks to uh, uh, budget their lives, or to like help, with maybe for like tax season they could use that for to ask some questions about like how to navigate their financial situation. Maybe there's just like things of like, yeah, maybe they want to forecast. Maybe some kid gets like a summer job, or is like lined up for a summer job, and wants to sort of forecast like how much money are they going to make, and maybe they want to buy some gifts for the holidays later in the year. Like what are the things that they need to be mindful of, and like how can they quickly calculate and talk about it? Because a lot of the old products these days, or like financial products in an old fashioned way, are very much just numbers on a page and not too like conversational. So I think there's a lot that customers are doing to make finance like a much more conversational experience, rather than just like a spreadsheets and numbers and lines on a graph. So I think that's been like a something that's been interesting. And yeah, things like ChatGPT can certainly, facilitate those kinds of those sort of like explorations. So that's been cool to see. And yeah, I'm sure that all the big like research labs and all the big tech companies are finding ways to take this new, like all this new tech, and put it into more financially driven, or like financial, whether it's like financial literacy, it could be like education, it could be planning and budgeting and that sort of thing, or it could be maybe at some point it's, this is just hypothetical, but maybe it starts doing things for you. Maybe go open me a bank account, ChatGPT, just like go figure out how to do it and come back and tell me when I need to like, sign away. Who knows how far we are from that sort of future, but it's something that, yeah, maybe you don't necessarily need to like do as much hands-on work, or you know, uh, perhaps those things can become a little more easy to do. And I think that could help a lot of people out. There are just people who are, they can be underserved, or they might live, the nearest bank might be like really far away. Uh, and so I think there are a lot of applications here that could help people who, either have like physical constraints or other constraints that make it difficult to manage their financial lives. So I think there's a lot coming that, I can't even foresee, but is headed in that direction of hopefully making it a lot easier for people to, yeah, just learn more about money. Yeah, and that I think that was also I would say that it was a very clear and obvious side effect, but I hadn't noticed it, you know, when I accepted the job at Plaid. But like, it was basically was going to help make me far more literate and familiar with what finances are and mean and everything. I growing up in Canada, I came from a very standard middle class family. Both parents were like teachers for 30 years each. Like, sure, we could go on the nice vacation here or there, and I had two other brothers, so he had to factor in like maybe joining team sports or traveling for sports or those sort of things, or hobbies or what have you. And I felt that yeah, growing up, financial literacy just like it never really had to be a topic, because yeah, we were pretty well off, but it was also something that I think I'd realized when I got to Plaid, or came to America, and became a working adult. I was like, oh, there's a lot here that I still don't know and have to learn. And being at a financial company helps a lot with, sort of teaching yourself what it means to just be a part of the economy, for lack of a better phrase. But yeah, I think that it was a pretty enlightening component to it, about just working in fintech. Yeah.
That's actually really cool that you mentioned it, because when we were at Visa, they had us play this game. And then
Mhm.
I stepped forward and it was basically like budgeting a vacation. And I chose Spain. And it's like, so this is basically what Visa's doing with AI right now. And then they were talking about like potentially Visa making the transactions, but for security reasons, they can't do it yet. And that
Mhm.
they thought it would be getting released eventually soon, but they have to take a step back because of the
Mhm.
security and everything. And if AI was to not work out with it.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah, no, that's really interesting because yeah, there's like, yeah, all these like new ways to like explore like a financial choice, like a vacation is like something that, yeah, if I was the same age I am now, but had the tools of 10 or 20 years ago, yeah, it would just be totally different. You would not have these tools at your disposal in the same way. And it might be like almost, it might be, yeah, prohibitive. Like you might need to like pay someone to help with that, or maybe you need to like know someone that like has the institutional knowledge to do it. So I think that yeah, definitely has been a democratization of information, or like a lot of this is now more readily available, and that's all part and parcel of like just the internet at large and everything. So there's many components to it, but yeah, it's cool. Yeah, it's really cool.
Yeah. I think AI is like such a strong tool. Like you said, it brings so much information up to people, and I feel like it's like it brings even like equity to some extent. Like I feel like I'm able to like I know what I need to ask or what I like even for this interview, like I was using AI
Hmm.
to kind of like do your research on you and see what we should ask. And so yeah, I think it makes everything more efficient, um, more it's more I think it's fair. It's like brings that sort of like people it's more fair. I feel like the playing field is more fair. But with that being said, also I feel like it's a controversial thing to say because a lot of people think that it's changing everything, like it's gonna take all the jobs. And to some extent, like sure it is, and I was kind of curious to know like how do you respond to people who say like don't use AI or use AI because there's so many things that are like being thrown at us, I think, um, where yeah, they're saying like, yeah, don't use AI. Like, what happens if it turns off or something, or it's not letting you think critically? And then there's the other side where like every huge major company is integrating like ChatGPT like they're getting ChatGPT Enterprise into their system, and they
Hmm.
want you to be an AI champion,
Hmm.
and knowing how to like prompt and stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, yeah, it is really tough. I mean, I'm certainly no macroeconomist. I don't know
yeah,
much.
yeah.
I can't say much as far as like the. I mean, it is clear this will have an impact on jobs, just because I know that it's already impacted my job in a lot of ways. Um, I've really had to rethink how the old fashioned way of doing things. What I did 8 years ago applied in many ways today is very different. Whether that's like, maybe there's a huge output of logs and I need to make sense of it. And it's hard to like search for the right thing. Large language models can help a lot with that. And sort of like natural language or like prompting, sort of this like semantic searching sort of stuff can really make my life a lot easier. Um, so, it's certainly, it's changed my job in a way that like I definitely have a new tool set. Like the toolbox is definitely different in a lot of ways. I still rely on the good old trusty toolbox for sure. Like I think in a lot of ways I try to sort of stick not not stick to, but like still know and be familiar with the tools
Mhm.
that came before, just so like if I have to use them, they're still there, or like if I can't really get the thing that I need out of some output. Um, so there's still some value in being able to like uh, there's still some value in knowing both, but at the same time, like I know that yeah, new graduates today are just going to have a totally different experience for when they join the workforce, and if they have like a clear understanding of like what the tools can do and what the capabilities are, that's going to give them a really big advantage as far as succeeding at their role, and like learning a lot from for their own sake. Like learning what it is professionally that they want to accomplish. Because, for example, I still haven't really got there yet, but I studied computer science because I wanted to make video games, and I wasn't so great at all the linear algebra and physics classes that were necessary to like continue studying that. But now, there's a world where, yeah, on the side, I could actually get away with learning a little bit more about game development that just wasn't there before, um, through tools like this. So that's one component of it. Is yeah, just being a little more uh, feeling like the accessibility to do new or different things for me now is a very fun outcome of all these tools. But I know that, yeah, like the I think even being on the inside, it's still really hard to just like keep up with all the new changes. Like the changes are just so fast and so frequent that like I don't necessarily feel like I'm an expert. I just have
Mhm.
some intuitions, or like I have a little bit more context into like where things have been and maybe where they're going, but it's not, you know, I think that every couple of weeks is basically like back to the sort of the same meeting point when things change. And so, it's like technology, I guess, will always be changing. I didn't have to program using punch cards. Sure, I maybe had to write some assembly code, and that's always, you know, for many for many engineers, yeah, they can be perfectly great without knowing how assembly works, or having coded in that, just like how, yeah, they can do without having knowing how punch cards worked. So I think for those who are, very AI centric, then like, yeah, there's going to be some flavor of that too. That maybe they don't know maybe what it means to yeah, write 1,000 lines of kernel code for Linux or something, or you're going to go write some patch in C or whatever, what have you, by hand. I mean, I'm sure that I guess I appreciate and I'm deeply admire the people that can do that. But
Yeah.
if you're wanting to just learn and explore, like, why can't you have a tool that helps you do it? And that same sort of thing applies for, when I want to explore games, like, I'll be able to use these tools in that way. Um, so yeah, it's very interesting. And like, I think maybe my main takeaway for new grads and similar folks is just, you know, this is still just as difficult and fast and changing for industry experts or like professionals like myself who've been at it for a few years. Um, and so I think if you can find the ways that get you excited about the work that you do, that you can use these tools for, then that gives you a big advantage. And you should like keep pursuing that sort of thing. Don't, you know, maybe, yeah, try to avoid sort of getting too calcified with how you maybe do things. And I have that problem a lot of times today. There's something that I'm doing that is a bit antiquated in how I approach it. And yeah, I need to be more comfortable, or remind myself more often that, yeah, there's just probably some new way to do it, and I should just give it a try. Because yeah, a lot of these tools can surprise you, and how good they are. And it sometimes takes, yeah, just a little bit of sure. Sometimes it takes a little bit of prompt engineering, or a little bit of, um, more thinking a little bit differently to get those things to work. But yeah, that's sort of how I've been thinking about it. Yeah.
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 I that's an amazing answer. I totally agree. I feel like it's like learning to embrace it, but also like it's a balance. Like I think walking the balance beam and using everything in moderation is like key. And like not being naive to the technology, but also like staying up to date to like the markets and like knowing what's up. So yeah, I that's great advice. And I know it's already 6, so we're gonna be closing it up here. Um, but yeah, Brittany, did you want to add anything else before we close?
No, this is like great advice, and
Yeah.
thank you, Daniel, for your time. And sorry that we missed your lunch. I mean your dinner.
Oh, no, no, no. It's okay. I'm sorry that I was running late too. I had totally like completely had lost track of time in the last hour of the day here. So I'm sorry I was quite late there. But yeah, I mean, I have a totally open door, you know, if there's any sort of questions you have, um, yeah, about
Yeah.
just like whatever it might be, I'm always happy to chat. Um, and I don't know, just yeah, always keep in mind that I'm still figuring it out, just like you guys. You know, it never really sort of ends in that way. So, um, I guess like I'm not trying to sound like some old wise man, but you know, yeah, stay in school, work hard, and you know, always stay curious and like be positive. And you know, you're gonna face a lot of like hardship or you know a lot of like headwinds when you're going through your professional life, but it's you know it's kind of just for now. It's certainly a fact of life, and yeah, however it all pans out, it's all you know how it was meant to be in a way. You know, but do remember you know you always have a lot of. I think most people have a lot more control over how their lives are than they like to admit sometimes. You know, yeah, I feel like it could have been very easy for me to not take a job in America and stay in Canada and just look for work there and everything. But I don't know, taking a little bit of a leap and you know, answering that call to go somewhere or work a place that you might not know anything about, you know, had no clue what plaid was. I really didn't. Yeah, it might be the thing that really, you know, is that main branch that can make your life um, take a totally different path, which is cool. Yeah, we get a lot of. We, I think we're lucky in this day and age to have a lot of cool opportunities, and just by the fact of you guys, yeah, you know, um, studying hard and you know, even just by virtue of being in California here. Actually, wait, Brittany, you're also
I'm in
yeah,
California.
okay. Just making sure. But yeah, you know that it comes with a lot of just that alone is like already so advantageous. Like yeah,
Yeah.
I would have been so lucky as a undergrad to have you know studied here like in the Bay because yeah, it's such a cool place. There's a lot here, so I hope both of you you know stay local for you know stay
I
local
will.
and then you know
Love you, Brittany.
do
Stay
something
local.
here because yeah um it's a really cool place but also yes like I said if maybe you need to get on a plane to move somewhere else to pursue your professional life then sure go for it don't say no yeah a lot can happen so
Yeah.
be ready for it yeah
Yeah. It's funny you say that because there's some relocation that may be happening with Brittany, but
Yeah, they might relocate me to
we'll,
Seattle, and I'm over here like, no, I can't. But
I mean,
no,
yeah, Seattle's still cool.
yeah.
Seattle's a very nice place. It's very beautiful. So, yeah, you know, it's yeah, you're always gonna have these tough choices to make, but you know, whatever it is that you do, it is inevitably the right one.
Well,
So,
God's plan, Brittany. God's plan.
I'm leaving it in God's
God's
hands.
plan. God's plan is the best plan.
yeah, totally, totally.
Anyways, Daniel, thank you so much. I love your character. I admire you so much. Like
Oh, thanks,
your
man.
honesty and your relatability, I think is like honestly key to anything. And so it totally makes sense why you're at OpenAI and like
Oh, thanks.
just why you've been so successful. Really cool to see that. And but yeah, thank you so much. And
Yeah, no,
hopefully
thanks.
we stay in touch. And yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. It's definitely stay in touch. Yeah, look forward to what both of you do. And yeah, let me know. Keep me posted. And yeah, I really appreciate it. I don't really do this, or I haven't really done this, I guess, just because I need to meet more new grads, I guess. Yeah, so take it easy. Best of luck. And yeah, I'll see you both around, hopefully in person next time.
yes, yes. All
Daniel,
right. Thank you,
have a great
Daniel.
night.
Have a
Cool.
great rest of your evening. Bye.
Peace.